Death of Gareth Williams. What most likely happened? Welcome to our video on a world of intrigue and espionage, where secrets and lies are currency and trust is a commodity in short supply. Today we delve into the enigmatic world of MI6 agent Gareth Williams, a man whose life was shrouded in mystery and whose death remains an unsolved puzzle. As we explore the fascinating story of Gareth Williams, we will uncover a web of cryptic clues, murky motives, and shadowy figures, all surrounding the untimely demise of this brilliant and enigmatic agent. From the hallowed halls of Britain's most secretive intelligence agency to the seedy underworld of international espionage, we will follow the trail of evidence and try to piece together the truth about what really happened to Gareth Williams. Williams, a native of Valley, Anglesey, Wales, began studying mathematics part-time at Bangor University while still in high school and earned a first-class degree at age 17. After receiving a PhD from the University of Manchester, he bowed out of a subsequent postgraduate program at St. Catherine's College in Cambridge. He began working for GCHQ in Cheltenham in 2001 while renting a room in Prestbury, Gloucestershire. The Government Communications Headquarters, also known as GCHQ, is an intelligence and security organization tasked with providing signals intelligence and information assurance to the United Kingdom's government and armed forces. Reportedly an exceedingly private man who enjoyed cycling, Williams was scheduled to return to Cheltenham after his annual leave at the start of September 2010. Williams' death bore all the hallmarks of a traditional spy mystery. A British agent discovered dead inside a sports bag with its zipper padlocked from the outside. Was it a self-inflicted accident or a murder of an MI6 agent by his own or foreign agents? This uncertainty is why this was one of the most puzzling and intricate unsolved murders in recent history. A case beset by contradictions and mysteries, blurred by secrets and lies, and revolving around a man who was himself a mystery. Williams, age 31, was a brilliant mathematician and codebreaker at the Covert Communications Surveillance Station, GCHQ, in the United Kingdom. Williams' work was believed to involve cyber-terrorism and was classified as top secret. He was nearing the end of a one-year assignment to MI6, Britain's Foreign Security Service, when on August 23, 2010, his naked, severely decomposed body was discovered in the bath of his apartment on the top floor of an MI6 safe house. The peculiar characteristics of the crime scene made the police's task nearly impossible from the beginning. Even though it was the middle of summer, the maximum setting of the apartment's heating system had been left on, hastening Williams' decomposition and making it impossible for the pathologist to determine the cause of death. The absence of DNA or fingerprints in the bathroom and on the bag was even more bizarre. How could Williams have sealed himself inside the bag without leaving forensic evidence behind? There were no clear indicators that he had struggled to free himself from the bag. The circumstances were so bizarre that seemed unlikely. Detectives were left with the overwhelming belief that Gareth Williams was assassinated. The fact that the front door to Williams' apartment was locked from the outside heightened the detectives' suspicions, indicating that someone else had been present before their arrival. Whoever they were, had they cleaned up the crime scene? The most likely scenario was that Williams was murdered by professionals because of his top-secret duties for MI6. But were they hostile agents or allies? And why was the murder, if it was a murder, orchestrated in such a peculiar manner? The detectives were confronted with a crime directly out of an espionage novel. Left stumped, the detectives would have to contact Williams' superiors at MI6 to obtain information. Unfortunately, throughout the subsequent investigation, the security services consistently thwarted the Metropolitan Police's attempts to investigate the crime thoroughly. Crucial evidence was suppressed, and Williams' co-workers were barred from being interviewed. Some even suspected MI6 of tainting the deceased man's reputation in the media after lurid tales from unknown sources about Williams' private life and apparent preference for bondage and transvestitism began to appear in the newspapers. While £20,000 worth of women's clothing and a long red wig were discovered in his apartment, the disclosures to the media appeared to be a cynical attempt to divert the story away from murder and towards a sex game gone awry scenario. When it was discovered that Williams had been absent for more than a week before anyone at his workplace reported his absence, the investigation into MI6's role in the case was questioned. Many people found it unfathomable that someone involved in top-secret work vital to the national security of the United Kingdom would be allowed to go AWOL for so long. Could MI6 be so recklessly careless, or do they have something more nefarious to conceal? In May 2012, an official coroner's investigation harshly criticized MI6 and their police liaison for obstructing the police investigation and concealing evidence. Their covert testimony at the inquest was widely regarded as unconvincing. However, the most pertinent question for pathologist Dr. Fiona Wilcox remained whether Williams could have confined himself inside the bag. Hundreds of attempts were made to duplicate the feat using experts in confined spaces. These professionals tried to duplicate the feat at least 400 times without success. Based on this and other evidence, the coroner concluded that Williams' death was likely the result of criminally mediated actions by a third party. Consequently, the Metropolitan Police reopened the investigation and re-examined the evidence for over a year. In November 2013, Deputy Assistant Commissioner Martin Hewitt stated to the press that his investigation had reached the controversial conclusion that Williams' death was most likely the result of an accident, while also acknowledging the many voids in their knowledge of the case. This delayed reversal of the inquest's findings did little to convince the public or Williams' family that his death did not result from foul play. There are still unanswered issues, including the most significant of all. Was Gareth Williams assassinated? This is where you, our Bad Things crew, come in. We will show you the evidence for and against Williams being murdered, and would love to hear your opinions in the comments section. The evidence for the cleanup. Some early detectives on the case were convinced that the crime scene had been dry cleaned, which is security service lingo for eliminating incriminating evidence such as fingerprints and DNA. Former Detective Chief Inspector Colin Sutton was among the first officers to arrive at the scene. He later said, "I remain convinced the flat was tidied up after his death." He would add, "That may have been to protect national security, or it might have been something more sinister. If that's the case, then it could have been the perfect murder." Besides Williams' fingerprints and DNA, no other fingerprints or DNA were discovered in the apartment. Curiously, no fingerprints or DNA were found in the bathtub where the corpse was found, coiled up in a sealed red sports bag. Williams' corpse was discovered unclothed, so it is difficult to imagine how he could have placed himself in the bag without leaving DNA or fingerprints in the bathtub. In addition, no fingerprints or DNA were found on the bag's zipper or padlock, which Williams would have had to manipulate with great force. Williams was not wearing gloves, making the absence of fingerprints impossible. The absence of forensic evidence was not the only factor that hindered the detectives' investigation. When the authorities arrived at the apartment, they were astonished to find the heating on high, even though Williams had died during a hot summer. The excessive heat expedited the body's decomposition, preventing pathologists from determining the cause of death. The coroner shared the opinion of some of the on-scene detectives that this was another attempt by an unknown third party to obliterate evidence. An added disquieting piece of evidence appeared to indicate that the crime scene had been cleaned up. When Williams' body was discovered, his phone was lying on a table. Detectives found that it had been reset to factory settings just hours before his death. At the inquest, coroner Fiona Wilcox was particularly concerned about this, saying that the phone may have been used to arrange a meeting with Williams' murderers and wiped after he was killed. How did he manage to secure himself in the bag? So much of this most perplexing of cases revolves around whether Williams could have actually confined himself inside the sports bag. William Mackay and Peter Faulding, two specialists in confined spaces, oversaw many reconstruction attempts for this purpose. They tried to confine themselves into the same style of red North Face duffel bag in which the body was discovered over 400 times. Neither was able to duplicate the achievement. We got close, but close is still far away. That was based upon hundreds and hundreds of attempts. Maybe if we had tried it 2,000 times, we would have done it. I don't know, but there were two of us, Mackay said. Faulding stated during the investigation, "I believe he was placed in the bag by a third person. The absence of traces of struggle may be a more pragmatic reason to question the accident theory. Why had Williams not tried to escape if he had confined himself in the bag as part of a sex game and then realized he was trapped? There were no visible traces of damage to the bag or zipper, and Williams was coiled up in a position described as peaceful." MI6's delay. Although the precise nature of Williams' work at MI6 was never disclosed, it was widely known that he was an expert code breaker engaged in top-secret, vitally important national security work. It has been hypothesized that he worked with terrorist communications and cyber warfare. A week before his body was discovered, on August 16th, he was scheduled to lead a meeting with his MI6 colleagues at their London headquarters in Vauxhall Cross. Williams never appeared and had been absent all week. Unbelievably, no one at MI6 reported him missing. Not until Friday the 20th did his primary employees at GCHQ sound the alarm. The Human Resources Department instructed Williams' division supervisors at MI6 to investigate his apartment and contact the police if he could not be found. Even so, MI6 took no action. Monday of the following week, when GCHQ realized that the police still needed to be notified, they made contact themselves. Professor Anthony Glees, director of the Center for Security and Intelligence Studies at Buckingham University, would say, "It should be stressed that it is standard practice in our secret agencies that if somebody is not at their desk within an hour, a search will be made for their whereabouts. Someone working on national security, like Gareth Williams, does not go missing." The coroner's inquest described the extraordinary delay as having stretched the bounds of credibility. Williams' family have harshly criticized MI6's conduct. Due to MI6's refusal to allow interviews with Williams' colleagues, police detectives could not cast any light on the situation. It was then evident that MI6 was covering up Williams' death, but for what reason? Had foreign agents murdered him, and was MI6 responsible for the cleanup of Williams' Pimlico apartment to conceal the murder? An anonymous witness from the security service testified at the inquest that Williams' unauthorized searches on MI6 computers may have placed his safety at risk from malevolent third parties, but did not specify who. The sexual defamation campaign. Synced with the beginning of the police investigation into Williams' murder, the sexual disclosures began. Anonymous stories about his private life started to appear in the media, along with salacious allegations that his death may have had a sexual motive. Based on limited evidence, some rumors claimed that Williams was homosexual, a transvestite, and into bondage and S&M. The lead investigator, Detective Chief Inspector Jackie Sabaya, acknowledged that the disclosures had diverted her team's attention from genuine lines of inquiry. More malicious allegations proliferated in the press that bondage equipment and male escort phone numbers had been discovered in Williams' apartment. A report even claimed that Williams' phones had been arranged in a ritualistic manner. All these stories proved to be completely false. Coroner Dr. Fiona Wilcox ruled out a sexual motive for the murder and stated that Williams was not a transvestite. Wilcox hypothesized that the disclosures were unscrupulous attempts to manipulate evidence and divert the investigation from the intelligence services. Crispin Black, a former intelligence advisor who attended the inquest, said that the sex game gone awry scenario is a popular method for intelligence agencies to conceal assassination. Disposing of an enemy and making it look like a perverted fantasy gone wrong is in the training manuals of every spy agency, from MI6 to Mossad, he said. He was found dead in a locked bag in a flat full of women's clothing and wigs, and with his internet browsing history conveniently featuring bondage sites, Black said. The sex game cover is a very useful mechanism in a murder. Not only does it provide a disguise for the actual means and method of death, it trashes the reputation of the victim and blunts the energy of any subsequent investigation, Black would add. The evidence against. The CSI effect. The absence of DNA and fingerprints at the crime scene made detectives and commentators suspect Williams' apartment had been cleaned up by his killers. However, it is a fallacy that forensic evidence is always present at crime scenes. This phenomenon is known as the CSI effect by prosecutors. In many modern trials, jurors have become so acclimated to the exaggerated depiction of forensic science on television and in the movies that they expect all cases to revolve around such evidence. Nowadays, juries expect DNA evidence in all homicide cases, but it is not uncommon for none to be discovered. In reality, only about 13% of homicide cases have any form of forensic evidence, and approximately 10% of crime sites have sound DNA evidence. Therefore, while the absence of handprints and DNA on the bathtub of Gareth Williams' apartment was unusual, it is not unthinkable that the combination of heat and moisture in the bathroom degraded such evidence. The sexual motive. Chief Inspector Jackie Sabaya and the coroner ruled out a sexual motive for Williams' death. However, some commentators have suggested that this conclusion may have been premature. Many found the coroner's explanation that the £20,000 in women's clothes and the red wig discovered in Williams' apartment were mere presents for pals to be unbelievable and unconvincing. Could the unusual fatality have been the result of a disastrous sex game? Investigators discovered evidence that Williams was interested in bondage and an extreme subset of it, claustrophilia, which is the desire to be in confined spaces for sexual pleasure. A former landlady of Williams told the inquest that she once found him bound to his bed while wearing only his boxer briefs. Williams had tied his wrists and feet to the bedposts, making it impossible for him to escape. Did this strange occurrence show that Williams had a penchant for impossible bondage exploits in the past? The Russian connection. Two senior British police sources have stated that a part of Williams' work involved Russia, and one has verified that he helped the US National Security Agency in tracing international money laundering routes used by organized crime groups, such as Moscow-based criminal cells. Boris Karpichkov, a former KGB agent who defected from Russia and now lives in the United Kingdom, stated in interviews conducted in September and October 2015 that sources in Russia had alleged that the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, also known as the SVR, were responsible for Williams' assassination. According to Karpichkov, the SVR unsuccessfully tried to coerce Williams into becoming a double agent. In response to the SVR's efforts, Williams reportedly claimed to know the identity of a Russian spy inside GCHQ. Karpichkov asserted that Williams' threat left the SVR with no choice but to eliminate him to protect their agent within GCHQ. Regarding the manner of Williams' death, Karpichkov asserted that the SVR injected an untraceable toxin into his ear. Did Gareth Williams find something he shouldn't have on MI6 computers? Or was he assassinated by Russian or American operatives? Or did he die accidentally in a sex fetish gone wrong? Leave us a comment and tell us what you think happened to the MI6 analyst. And remember, if you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check our web shop where you can find exclusive true crime merch brought to you by Bad Things.